Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto, and it's not that good of a morning, but we are going to be covering Ethereum. We'll talk about the current situation. We'll talk about the expectation given the current situation. We'll talk about fundamentals. We'll talk about technicals. We'll talk about Ethereum as a whole, because Ethereum as a whole, as a concept, has had some reputational damage. I mean, over the course of since May, which is basically when Ethereum started outperforming Bitcoin. And at the start, that was obviously minor, because if you look at ETH BTC, right, so the relative strength of Ethereum against Bitcoin, in May it started rallying and it broke the downtrend ultimately, but it was still at the levels as March 2025. So that was a minor rally. But now you can see that this is the first time in a very long time that ETH BTC is actually losing the uptrend, even on the 3-day time frame. In July, we gained the upper hand versus Bitcoin. And on the daily time frame, we have already lost that trend, right? So I've told you about this for the entire month of October, that it was to be expected that Ethereum would be relatively weak against Bitcoin, and that is continuing, which is not a great thing. And I think the sentiment around Ethereum has also worsened quite a bit. And when we're talking about one of the main reasons why Ethereum really started rallying since May, it's the announcement of all those DATs, right? Those digital asset treasuries, all those corporates, major corporations, businesses, etc., that were starting to accumulate Ethereum. And I have the sense, and that's what I read from the sentiment in the market right now, that is being perceived as a much, much higher risk than it is with Bitcoin, right? I mean, with Bitcoin, obviously, we have strategy, which has accumulated a pretty large percentage of the Bitcoin supply, but they've done so in a much smarter way, and they were the first mover, and that also means that they are still in profit, right, in by quite a wide margin. And with those Ethereum digital asset treasuries, you cannot say that. I mean, Ethereum at this point of time is back at the same levels as the 16th of July, and they've bought a huge amount of Ethereum during this period of time. So they are now down in value, which creates the risk that they're going to sell off that Ethereum. And if they're going to sell off that Ethereum, look, at this point of time, that's not the case. All right, so I don't want to scare you too much. But if they're going to sell it off, we will easily push down into this level right here at 27 and 2800. So far, we have a strong support level around 3200 and 3000, right? Because Ethereum unfortunately broke down lower. I thought yesterday we still had a chance to reclaim, but I also told you yesterday already, okay, this looks like a real bearish breakdown, right? We had a high volume breakdown with bearish fundamentals supporting it. That's what I told you yesterday morning. So hopefully you were relatively prepared for the further pullback, which ultimately I did not expect last week, Friday, last week in the weekend. But the fundamentals around the financial markets have declined quite significantly, and that is what you can see with equities. Equities yesterday morning really started to push down and are still not completely recovered, by the way. And the volatility index is also still elevated, right? So there is still some inherent risk still, or very risky business surrounding the equity markets. And which equities, if we can call them equities, are suffering the most? It's crypto, right? So those fundamentals are still not great. Now, like I said, Ethereum has hit a significant support level right here at the yearly rolling VWAP, the 200 EMA, this older fair value gap that we had right here, and a high time frame support level around 3050. So you have uncertain fundamentals versus a strong, certain support zone, which will win. I would argue that, especially with equities being at support and with the underlying fundamentals, like if you look at repo operations and if you take a look at the SOFR spread, these have not worsened, right? And if you say, what are you talking about? Check out my video I did yesterday on the liquidity crisis in the United States. So based on that, I think this support level is going to be enough. We got some strong candles here as well, given one of my self-made indicators. So I would say it's most likely that we will get some stability here and potentially even get a move into the upside right here at 3440 and 3480. But more than that, I do not expect. And ultimately, if we see a worsening, if we see a decline, if we see an increase again, for example, in repo operations, but in general, if we see a decline in the liquidity situation in the United States, we can still push down into that level at 2,900, right? So bad news will push us down lower. With the current news and the current fundamentals, I think we'll hold here. But those are my thoughts. I think that's what you need to know for now. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Take care, everybody, in these market circumstances, and I will see you all in my next videos. Bye.